What's good happening, you guys? In today's episode, we have with us Shiva, who is a Stoic. A Stoic is someone who follows Stoicism in his life. It is a version of philosophy in itself which deals with the practicality, logic, and the choices a human can make in their life. This is just the part 1 of the video where we had discussed about philosophy, stoicism, and logical things surrounding it. And not only that, we had also touched upon the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I have given the timestamp in the descriptions, but I would recommend you guys to watch the entire video. So, without any further delay, let's dive into the video. Welcome, Shiva. Welcome to the Artikalam podcast show. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Lokesh. Thank you. It's great to be here.
First of all, please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay, so there's nothing much about me yet still coming up in life, so I'll keep it short. I'm Shiva. I'm a writer by profession and by passion. That is what I do. So that is one good thing that's happening in my life. And apart from that, I think the reason I'm on this show is because of my experience with wellness and stoicism. So in terms of that, it's I think it's just where life took me. So I've had the opportunity to focus on wellness. I was overweight, extremely overweight. So when I lost weight and when I turned my focus towards wellness, I also happened to stumble upon stoicism, and it also goes well with my job, which is also writing. So it gives me a lot of content.
So first question I would like to ask is that what is philosophy in general, and what do you think? First, what is philosophy first?
Okay, so I'm just going to give my perspective, okay? So these won't be like textbook definitions. This is all about what I understand philosophy to be. So I think philosophy is just, it is the technology with which our consciousness works. Okay. So to put it more simply, we are both sitting in front of a computer. The computer functions based on certain rules and certain logics and certain ideas. So if we, as now Lokesh is a person, Shivaram is a person. So if we both consider ourselves as one unit, like this computer, our consciousness functions based on certain rules and ideas. So that algorithm, that set of rules is philosophy. And just like that, we come in all shapes and sizes and types, right? So each one is a different person. They have their own philosophy. They have their own way in which their mind works and how they think, how they feel, how they perceive this world, and what works for them. So that's what philosophy is. It's just it's just a framework for our consciousness.
Okay, so this you have mentioned like it's an algorithm in which we all work as a unit. Okay, so is it already it is determined, or it evolves with time?
I think nothing is ever predetermined, right? So it always evolves. But the point is that it is actually counterintuitive. The reason is that we are evolving all the time, and every single generation, our life expectancy is increasing. The way we see this world is changing. What we can accomplish as a human race is increasing. But essentially, what drives us is pretty much the same, correct?
Yeah.
Think about it. What drives us as a human being? If you see the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that remains the same. No matter how far we go, no matter if we if we invent flying cars, or if we invent robots and like Terminator, if it destroys the earth, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How we function is going to remain the same. What we need as human beings, how we think, what we desire, what we want to do in this world, how we perceive life around us, all that remains the same. So in that way, the answer to your question is yes and no. No, because our opportunities keep increasing and our options keep increasing. The mechanisms with which we flex our own intelligence keeps increasing, but the nature, our nature as a human beings, it is the same. It will be the same no matter how many more centuries we come across.
Okay, nice. And also, is there any subsets of philosophy, or it's in general itself? Like, is there any parts of philosophy?
Well, okay, let us consider Indian philosophy. So we have Vedas, Puranas. My personal favorite is Adi Shankara. He coined the Advaita philosophy, which is Advaitam is there is no two separate entities. We are all one. So that is the concept of seeing all life as one big ball of energy. So we are all the same. So whether it's an ant or a human being, there is no two different things. So that is Advaitam.
Mm.
And if you look at the polar opposite, there is something called Stoic philosophy that I talk about in my Instagram channel. So Stoicism, again, this is just a different way of understanding the same things. And if you look at Bhagavad Gita and Stoicism, they have a very close connection. People don't get it, but if you read both, you'll find lots of similarities. So there are lots of subsets in philosophy, and the subsets, as in and again, those subsets come from the people that created them. For example, Greek civilization is totally different. You know, the way their kings ruled their own states, they are different from how we see Mahabharata, which is where Gita stemmed out of. So that will be different, correct? And our own people, let's take Akbar. Akbar had his own philosophical tree. So that is totally different, because the way these people ruled is different. So we have lots of different, areas of philosophy. Just like let's say if you have science, there are so many branches in science. Let's say physics, there are so many different branches in physics. So it is like, it is wide, and one lifetime is not enough to learn all philosophy.
Okay.
So, but the important point is that philosophy, again, you can just, to put it very crudely, it is a system of ideas. It is a group of ideas. So it is just how those philosophers perceive life, that those ideas, that is what we call philosophy. So each of these groups will have different sets of ideas. But what is important is, as people, no matter what philosophy we read or what philosophy we follow, we'll have to apply it. So I study Bhagavad Gita, I study Stoicism, and inside Stoicism there are many different types of Stoics. For example, Seneca is a very different type of Stoic. Marcus Aurelius was a totally different type of Stoic. So these are all different people, and I study all of them. And if you look at what Arjuna told Krishna, it is similar and different. So I study them. But the point is, I'll have to take an idea and apply it. So what I do is that if I take one idea of Stoicism, I'll see how I can apply it in my everyday life, how I can apply it in my job, how I can apply it to my business, how I can apply it to all directions of life. So that is important.
Okay, so I think not only in philosophy, but everything in our life, if we learn something, we have to apply it to know the real fact from it.
Yeah, definitely. And there is a are you an engineer, Lokesh?
Yes.
Which branch?
Electronic.
Okay, I'm mechanical. Okay, so I worked in a core company. I got a really good job in core company, Toshiba, but I left that job and now I'm writing for a living. Okay, so because I like that. So the point is, if you ask me, I really love mechanical engineering. That is why I chose it. There was no option. I never considered any other branch. It was mechanical. But now I'm in a completely different way of work, because I worked in a core company for 2 years. It didn't suit me at all. So when I studied mechanical, it was very different. What I imagined the work to be, it was all so different. But when you come and do it practically, it is very different. It is not like what you imagined. I'm not saying it's bad. There are people, there are my friends who love their mechanical engineering jobs, but it's just that I'm not one of them. So for those people, when they applied it, they saw a whole new level. And when I applied it, I figured out that this is not something for me. So no matter, I spent 4 years studying, like you would have spent 4 years studying. But when you go into a job and start applying it, you will understand things very different. So with philosophy, it's nothing different. Okay. Can I give you a small example for this?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the core idea of let's take Bhagavad Gita. Let's take an example that everybody knows. Okay, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja Aham Tvaya Sarva Papam Mokshayikshami Ma Shucha. So people know it. Okay, it's I don't want to get into very specific Sanskrit terms, but the point is that Lord Krishna tells to Arjuna, see bro, fine, it's fine, leave everything, come to me, surrender, I'll take it. Sarva Dharmana Parityajya, leaving all dharma, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Assuming myself as a single authority, you surrender it to me, so I'll take care. So the point is that Krishna just spent so many hours and so many chapters in Bhagavad Gita explaining to Arjuna what dharma is, and at the end, or in the closing chapters, he says this: leave everything and come to me. So the point is, we as people, it becomes very confusing for us. But if
Okay.
we look at it, when we try to apply it, it becomes totally different. So then we'll think about it. So should we keep dharma or should we leave dharma? So let's say that there is a job opening, and we see some
Okay.
people who are actually very qualified for it, but there is also a temptation to refer our own relative or mama machan, so that he'll get the job and he'll do
Yeah.
well. So there is that
Yeah.
conflict. So now we don't know what dharma is. So he's my relative. Should I help him or should I give opportunity to a much more deserving person? There is this
Yeah.
conflict. In this case, how would you apply Bhagavad Gita? So when you apply it in this case, the idea itself will change. You won't know which is right. This is the time you actually understand what Krishna is saying. So he is saying, leave it to me. So there is a natural course of way of life. If you don't understand dharma, just leave it to me. So if you leave it, if you just leave it, so again you could conclude it in two different ways. You can say that
Yes.
so if I leave it just like that, the most deserving person will get the job.
We'll get. Yeah.
And if I refer my relative again, it could also be Krishna is doing it through
Yeah.
me. You could assume that. So
Yeah.
we are not debating what is right and wrong. If you ask me, you can do both. It's up to you. It's up to what you want to do. But the point is, now you understand how difficult it is to apply one single thought of philosophy in your everyday life. Okay, and let's take a stoic example. So Marcus Aurelius says the very core of Stoicism is you shouldn't try to control what's uncontrollable. Okay, so to listen to it is it's very nice. Okay, something is not in my control. What can I do? But when you apply it in an actual situation, the meaning changes completely. So let's say your boss is shouting at you. You might have done something wrong or you might have done something right, but they're still shouting at you. What do you think? So what is controllable in this situation and what is not controllable? So when you apply this particular thought in your actual situation, that is when you actually understand philosophy. That is when you first understand what Marcus Aurelius is trying to tell us by what is controllable, what is uncontrollable. What is controllable? Your actions towards that particular job is controllable. Your boss's opinion of you is not controllable. So you should not worry about that. You should not worry about whether your boss thinks you're a good person or a bad person or a good worker or a bad worker. What you can control is that if at all you made a mistake, you can own it up and you can say you won't do it or you can try to fix it. So if you focus on that, you won't have the mental trauma of boss scolded me. You won't have that.
Yeah, exactly.
So this little application, even if you just have one thought, even in you talked about we spoke about different branches of philosophy. No matter the branch, take one thought. If you apply it, you will understand. That is the time you start understanding philosophy. Otherwise, it's just reading a few words. Really, you have to apply it to everyday life.
Okay, but I think people, it majorly boils down to that people will think that you have to for the example you took. Giving the job offer to a relative or to the most deserving person, most of them will say go to the relative side option because they are relative, they are close. So always I think there will be there will be a tussle. So I think people must know what to apply and what to not.
Exactly. And if you need to know, then you should determine again. You should take one branch of philosophy and you should start to understand it. So let's say what I gave you was a very general example. We don't know the type of job. We don't know the financial situation of our relative. We don't know how much the other person is deserving. So there are lots of variables. So it's very difficult for us to create an imaginary situation with all variables. So my point is, in that situation, only when you apply a particular philosophical thought, only if you decide whether you should surrender it to Krishna or whether you should take an action.
Okay.
So only then you will understand which philosophy or which school of philosophy is saying which thing. So you have to understand that.
Yeah. So I think what would you do in that situation?
The reason I took this example is because I had that situation.
Yeah, I know that.
So I explained to my relative that he has to work harder.
Okay.
So because of using my name, he won't get any extra points. I told him, you can. I'll tell you whom to send your resume to and all that, but you have to earn it. I'm not going to put a good word for myself. Good word myself for you.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the point is, one more thing, Lokesh. This is very similar to what I try to do for my own brother. So in COVID times, he couldn't he couldn't find a better job, and he was really struggling. So
Okay.
what I did was I got him a one small course, and I tried to build a small business for him.
Okay.
So that if I build it up, he'll come over, he'll come and take over it, and it will be a good settlement for him. Even if he
Yeah.
earns a few 10,000-15,000 through it, it will be good for him and his family. But the
Mm.
point is, that guy never came to do it. So he said, okay,
Mm.
Pandra. He said, yeah, I'll do. But after I took all the effort, he didn't push for it. So the reason
Yeah.
is, he did not struggle to create it. So if he did not struggle to create it, he's never going to make the best use of it. Correct?
Mm. Yeah, obviously.
So this job, I would say it's kind of similar, because if my
Okay.
relative did not struggle enough to get that job, he's not going to value that job enough.
Yes.
So it is so just like how he's my relative, the company I'm working for is also a part of me. I should be truthful for my company also. It is also
Yeah.
my responsibility to give the best possible candidate to my company, right? So that is the
Yeah.
decision that I took.
Yeah. I think whatever a person gets in his life, his or her life, it is the only result of what he does for that. So I believe in that.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So that is 100% responsibility. I'm a big fan of that. Whatever you do, it's your responsibility.
Yeah, and
Whatever you
if
get.
yeah, and whatever, if you want anything, means you have to do that. You should not depend on anyone others to get help or do something for you, because you won't understand the credibility of that.
Exactly. And see, the point is, I have a very strange notion about what happiness actually is. Okay, so let's say I got a really good bike out of my own earning, as I got a really good bike.
Okay.
But the point is, it
Can
was
you
just
name that?
Interceptor.
Because I own a Pulsar RS 200.
Okay. I considered it, but I'm a big fan of Royal Enfield. So like,
Okay.
this is a one-time thing for at least the next 3 or 4 years. So I'm not going to compensate on Royal Enfield. So it is when you got that bike, it is a one-time activity, correct? So
Yes.
you felt really happy when you bought that bike.
Yeah.
But what after that? Every time you get on the bike and every time you use it, that is, and so just because you love bike, does it mean the traffic will go away?
No.
Right? So someone can get you a bike, but only if you love the process of driving through traffic, you'll enjoy that bike, correct?
It's absolutely, yeah.
So only if my relative enjoys the struggle of that job, he'll
He will
appreciate
enjoy
the
the
job.
job.
Yeah, he'll
Yeah.
appreciate the job I got for him, or the job itself. So if he doesn't take efforts for it, then why does he need a bike? If you don't like riding, how would a bike help you? Or if you don't understand the struggle of getting a bike, how would you appreciate the struggle of driving through traffic? So help should come through that. So let's say you have been borrowing your friend's bike and driving for a long time. Now you want your own bike. At that point, if you reached out to a person and say, see, I'll get a bike and I'll repay it, that makes more sense, because you already know the struggle, and the initiative is coming from you. So if this initiative came from my brother, he said, see, I'm doing all this, I just need your help to fix this. I want you to fix this marketing, I want you to fix this software. If he said that would have, if I helped him, then it would have been a much different help. It would have been a much lesser help, but he would have valued it more, because the initiative came from him, it didn't come from me.
Yeah, that's a part of him.
Yeah. Exactly. And that part of him is what begins it. He starts it. He's looking to drive it. I'm just giving him the steering. I'm just fixing some parts in the steering. So if at all we want to help someone, philosophically, this is what we should do. We should know if they really want it. We should know if they are qualified to go through it, if they are willing to go through the struggles of that job.
Okay.
So it's very funny, because whenever we think of dreams and ambitions, we'll always think about what we want to what we want to achieve, what we want to get, but we never think about what we are willing to lose, what we are willing
sacrificing
to give up.
Yeah,
Exactly. So if that sacrifice is going to make you happy, that is when that end result will make you happy. If that sacrifice is not going to make you happy, that end result will mean nothing for you. Correct?
Yeah. Then there will be no meaning, basically.
Yes. What is the meaning? If you didn't struggle for it, if you didn't work your ass off to get to that, then what is the meaning of what is the meaning of that?
Okay. And also, what is stoicism, in particularly stoicism, and who is a stoic, basically?
Okay. So let's start with the stoic. A stoic is anyone who's able to get through life without displaying a lot of emotions on the face. That is, get through hardships and pain. So, but it's not easy to do that. So there is a திருக்குறள், right? துன்பம் வரும் வேளையிலே சிரிங்க. Thiruvallur
Yes.
have said it. So which
Yeah.
basically means that whenever you face adversity, smile. So we don't get it, because how can I smile when when someone is trying to shoot
When
me in
life
the
is
head?
hitting hard at me, how can I smile?
Yeah. And when my girlfriend is cheating on me, how can I smile? When my when people are when my boss is asking me to get out of my job, how can I smile? Or when I
Yeah.
just got hit by COVID and I lost my smell and taste, how can I smile? So
Yeah.
but the point is, now we are smiling because we both probably went through all that. So now we are smiling. But the
Yeah.
point is, how do you smile when you go through it? When you go through it all. So what happens is, in order to do that, you have to be damn good. You need to have a good understanding of yourself as a person. You need to have a much better understanding of what life is, and the nature of life. And stoicism is a set of practices that helps you become that person. So right now, if let's say you face a very bad adversity, let's say I don't know, we have been talking about adversities but it's fine. That's what stoicism is.
Okay.
So let's take something really close to our hearts. Let's say we both lost our bikes. It will break our heart.
Nice. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely, it will break my heart. Okay. So in that case, are we able to go through it without, even if we don't smile, are we able to go through it without displaying a lot of emotions? Are we able to, appa mela kopata, or getting angry on our friend,
Frustrations and all.
giving curses to God? Why did you do this? God didn't do anything. He's sitting there calmly. You lost your bike and you're telling him.
Exactly.
So the point is, if you don't understand life's true nature, if you don't understand what you consider as a profit, what you consider as a loss, what you consider as something that's fulfilling for you, what you consider as something you can control, if you don't understand all these aspects, you're never going to be a stoic. You're not going to get through it well. So the next time you get a bike, you'll be so happy, and if you lose that bike, you'll be so sad. You'll lose all your happiness. You'll lose the nature of your life. So a stoic is someone who's able to get through this get through this particular hardship smoothly. So one more thing is that it's not by suppressing your emotions. That is one misconception. People think stoics suppress their emotions. That's not true. So it's you don't get through that tragedy by suppressing your emotions. You get through that tragedy by facing your emotions. What is the emotion I'm facing? What was the value of the bike that was attached to me?
Detaching the emotions from materialistic things, is that right?
That's also not right, actually, because it's highly impossible to detach all materialistic emotions. Why did we get bikes? So why did I get a bike?
Yeah.
So the point is, you don't have to detach it, but the point is, you should understand how you should be able to handle that emotion well. So let's say one emotion is you facing anger. So you face it head on. You don't try to distract yourself. You don't try to go and have sarak and have alcohol and try to distract yourself from that anger. Face the anger. See why you're getting angry. See which person was responsible for you to get angry. See why you're getting angry at your friend or your girlfriend or your any random person who hit you on the road. Why are you getting angry? Face it. Think about what you can do about that particular situation. Yes, it has happened. What can you do? What is your part in this particular situation? What is your circle of control? What can you control?
So it's like self-analyzing ourselves and seeing what we are reacting and what should be done.
Yeah,
is that the right way to put?
What should be done is that is ultimately where we are getting at. But when you are a stoic, what you first see is this is the hardship. What emotions am I facing? Next, the most important aspect is, what is up to me in this particular situation? Okay, so you just gave an awesome exam. You had to get 99 to get through to one particular university, but you end up getting 95. Or worse, you get 84 or you get 35. It doesn't matter.
Worst actually is I got an arrear.
You got an arrear. It doesn't matter. It happens to us. So what is up to you in this situation? Really, let's talk about getting an arrear. Yeah, good example. We are both engineers. So anyone who's seeing this podcast would be able to relate. Yeah, arrear. So let's say, okay, we got an arrear. This is one of my favorite papers, but I still got an arrear. What can we do in that particular situation? How would you react?
I would personally, I didn't actually. I hated engineering, So I didn't get that much feeling when I had an arrear, because okay, we can do it next time. I thought like that personally.
Okay. So let's take some let's say someone who really liked engineering. I liked my engineering, just that I didn't like the
Okay.
job, but I liked engineering. So
Okay.
let's say if I got an arrear, so what would I do? I would first think what is up to me in this situation. Okay,
Okay.
there is a
Yeah.
there is a very subtle distinction between you being at fault and you being responsible. Okay, so let's say you face childhood abuse.
Okay.
You're not at fault. The person who
Yeah.
abused you, it might be your father, your uncle, your teacher. They are at fault.
Hmm.
But how you handle it as an adult, that is your responsibility.
Yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
you should not if you let your childhood trauma affect your behavior as an adult, that is your responsibility. It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Correct.
Yeah.
And let's say someone left a cow in front of your house. You have a very
Okay.
posh apartment in Adaya. Someone just tied a cow in front of your house, and the next morning you open your house, there is a cow.
Yeah.
You're not at fault. You didn't know that there was a cow going to be there, but that cow is your responsibility now.
Yeah.
Are you going to give it to Blue Cross, or are you going to make beef curry out of it? You decided. Correct. So that is your responsibility. That is in fact that is the core aspect of stoicism. What is up to you in any particular situation? I got an arrear. What is up to me? So did I actually falter, or is it because the evaluator made a mistake? Let us first check that.
Okay.
Before knowing that, there is no point in getting frustrated. So
Yeah.
let's apply for reval first. So reval results came. Again I failed. Now let us see where we went wrong. We'll get the carbon copy of the paper, right? So you see that. So you see where you failed. So now it was it was your fault. It was your fault that you didn't get an arrear, or you might have had a really bad teacher. That teacher would have no idea about the subject. Let's say you had a subject like robotics, and the teacher was just the teacher passed out 1 year. That teacher was your own senior in your college.
Senior, yeah.
So he would have
happens. Yeah.
it happens in many colleges, and it will really be funny. So you would have called him Manna, now you have to call him sir. So
yeah.
So imagine that guy is your professor now, and it's probably not his fault also. He didn't have enough industry experience to teach you. So he's trying something, he's just putting a few slides, but nothing is getting into our head, so we failed. So now it might be his fault, but it is your responsibility. Yes, you didn't understand robotics, but what do you do? What do you do in that particular situation? So you should understand the futility of getting angry and sad or frustrated. There is no point in going for alcohol. There is no point in failing other subjects. There is no point in screwing up an interview that you have the next day. There is no point at all. So in this particular arrear situation, so if you are at fault, you know what to do. You can find a better teacher. You can join an online course for robotics. You yourself can study better. So there are so many things you could do, and you apply for reval first, and then you apply for another reval. If it's still not happening, you apply. Then you go for then you reappear. And when you reappear, you would be a much better prepared person.
That is a process called challenging the paper.
Yeah, challenging the paper. Yeah, I've never done that, but my friends did that. It's very interesting. So people mostly So people mostly get away with challenging. If they challenge, they'll mostly get through. So try that. Even if that didn't happen, now again it is your responsibility to become a better person in the next exam.
Next semester. Yeah.
In the next attempt, correct? So there is one more very interesting Stoic quote. There is a philosopher called Heraclitus, I think. So he says, no man can ever cross the same river twice, for he is not the same man, and that is not the same river.
Wow. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I mean, he would actually reverse of river. He would say, no man can ever cross the river twice, because it is not the same river, neither is he the same man.
Same man.
So you crossed your robotics exam once, you failed. The next time you take, it is not going to be the same exam, and you are not going to be the same person. Correct. So you have a 100% new opportunity to do better. So I would see that. And one more thing is that an important part of Stoicism is that it should not be confused with Stoic toxic positivity or useless negativity. Neither. Both could happen. Our point is seeing what went wrong.
Okay.
Accepting it. Yes, this went wrong. And the next thing is seeing what we can do. There is neither positivity nor negativity. That is just very practical advice.
Okay.
Practically, what can you do? You lost your bike. What can you practically do? Go to the police, file a case, get an insurance, right? So that is what you
Yeah.
can do. So that is in your control. That is your responsibility now. So you are
Okay.
not at fault, but you focus on what you are responsible for in that situation.